So good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
So we are just waiting for a couple of minutes for the participants to join. So we'll exactly start at 5.
Okay. পুরো বন্ধ করো না, পুরো বন্ধ করো না। না, না, খুলে দাও একটু, ব্যাস ব্যাস।
So good evening, everyone. So welcome you all once again to the second session of the 6th day of the seminar on Science, Technology and Society, the Promise for Next Generation, under the initiative of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. As we know, this Mahotsav has been driven by our Honorable Prime Minister vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat. So as we move forward to our 75th Independence Day, so it is our responsibility that we appreciate what science and the scientists have contributed to the nation and the society in the last 7.5 decades. So our seminar is a tiny attempt in this direction. So today, for this evening session, we have respected Anupam Basuji with us. Sir is currently Director NIT Durgapur. He is also a professor of Department of Computer Science and Engineering, IIT Kharagpur. Sir's research interests include the natural interface design and the human-computer interaction, embedded systems, designing education tools for the underprivileged children and for the children with learning disabilities, embedded system, and many more. Sir has more than 500 publications to his credit and greater than 3,700 citations to his recognition. Professor Basu has several patents and copyrights for his research recognition, which include the Bharati Braille transcription system, the Sparsh transliteration system, the Sparsh Chitra, the tool for integrating diagrams and the Braille coded material, Sanyog, a multilingual communication tool for the speech impaired and children with cerebral palsy, person with disability by the Ministry of Social Justice and Youth Empowerment, the Da Vinci Award by Engineering Society of Detroit and Multiple Sclerosis Society of Michigan for developing tools for the communication used by the speech impaired people and people with the cerebral palsy. Sir is also a fellow of Indian Academy of Engineering. Sir, Sir has been also associated as an International Research Affiliate, Center of Embedding Computing Systems, University of California. Sir has received the Humboldt Fellowship for his nominee's work in embedded system. Sir has been conferred with the JC Award and the Young Scientist Award for his extraordinary contribution towards developing of different tools for assisting the visual handicapped person. Sir, it's our honor to have you as a speaker in our seminar. So now I would request Professor Basu to please initiate his session.
Good afternoon, Taranjit, and I thank all the audience who have assembled today in this Sunday afternoon session. I'll be talking about uh, the accessibility issues in the present digital era. Of course, in this digital era, I mean, we are getting a lot of advantage because of our access to the internet, to the web, and other uh, semantic web and other advanced technology. And thereby, we are being benefited in education, in our work, in our research, in information gathering. But at the same time, there are people who are not directly getting the benefit of the same because of accessibility problem. So before I start, let me try to share my slide and you let me know whether it is visible or not. Nothing is visible, right?
So your screen is visible. Maybe you need to click onto your power presentation.
But somehow I am not being able to see that. That's the problem. Yeah. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. The slides are visible, sir.
Okay, that's what I wanted. Let me go to the slideshow. Yeah, the slides are visible now, right?
Yes, sir. Perfectly fine, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about the accessibility issues in the digital era. At the very outset, you can see these pictures that different people access information to different type of devices and in different types of situations. So it's just a cartoonized uh, picture, but let us start on a rather serious note. Tim Berners-Lee, when he invented the web, he said the power of the web is in its universality. That is, everybody can get access to the web and thereby can go deeper. However, what would be a response of a visually impaired user? They will say, sighted people just go click, 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 and there's the answer in the web. While I'm still looking for the first goddamn link. So a sighted user can straightway look at the and can click because they are not only sighted, they are also motor abled. So therefore, they can move their mouse, go to the proper link and click. Now, how will that be done by a sightless user? At that time, Tim Berners-Lee did not think about that. But the web was there with all its power. A blind person will have to identify a link, must be able to know that this is a link that may possibly lead me to this sort of information, and he'll have to activate that link. So that is one aspect of the limitation of the normal user interface that come with the web. So we'll have to do something about it. Worldwide, there are around 750 million people with disabilities. As we move towards a highly connected world, it is critical that the web is accessible by anyone, regardless of individual capabilities and disabilities. That was again said by none other than Tim Berners-Lee, the W3C consortium director, at a later point of time, because he could understand that the power of the web will not be accessible to the teeming million unless we actually can do something about it. And in order to do something, we have to first identify what the different types of disabilities. Here I have tried to list a few. One is, of course, visual impairment and low vision. By the way, here I can mention that uh, the number of people who are affected by low vision far surpasses the number of the people who are who are completely visually impaired. But these low vision people also find a lot of difficulty in seeing, in reading. The second category is, of course, the hearing impaired people. The hearing impaired people, we cannot give them any sound-based interface that will help them. No. Third category is cerebral palsy and neuromotor disorders. Mostly I found that most of us do not really understand what cerebral palsy, who the cerebral palsy affected people are. Just to make you understand, these are the also known as the spastic people. You will see them often on wheelchairs, driven by their parents or their relatives, and they cannot keep their head straight. They are, they do not have any control on their shoulder, on their head, neck, as well as their hands. All right. Sometimes they lean on the wheelchair, and 70% of these people are also speech impaired because what their speech are wobbled. And this happens because of certain problems, disorders in the brain, in the motor area. So these are essentially neuromotor disorder category. The fourth bullet talks about the paraplegics. Paraplegics means they can be quadriplegics or biplegics who cannot move their limbs, the hands and the leg. The other one, which is often not talked about, is color blindness. We often overlook that, and many people miss their chance to study education or are rejected by the army in spite of having all possible abilities, just because they're colorblind, they cannot uh, access. Now, you may ask, I mean, how would color blindness matter in the case of web accessibility? We'll see how. We always have some information also stored in colors. We'll see that. The other aspect is cognitive disability. That means you can call them mentally disabled, but that is an extreme. I would rather say that these are the people who are slow learners, who can, dyslexic people who find difficulty in identifying the letters and words, learning disabled people. So there is a category. Slow learners are not learning disabled. But again, it's a spectrum. Autism may come in that area, but autism should be treated separately. And along with that, we have got the aged population, the people who are aged, and they cannot use the standard interfaces that are provided with the software today to carry out their work, starting from phone and everything. It becomes a little difficult for them. So we are talking of digital accessibility. Now, the question is, uh, people with disabilities and those without disabilities can access digital content. So accessibility means I want to make a particular software, I want to make a particular web content digitally accessible. When I say digitally accessible, that means I want to make the people with disabilities and those without disabilities uh, both to be able to access the contents. All right, so that is accessibility. And it not only makes a moral sense, but also a better business sense and legal sense. Often we feel that we should work on these areas because we are fortunate human beings, we don't have these disabilities. It is our moral obligation to do that. No, not only that, but it also makes a better business sense. Because if you can make a system, a software or hardware, whatever you do, if that is properly universally designed so that it has got a universal interface, that by that I mean that everybody, all categories of users should be able to use it, then obviously your market expands and people will be able to take it, right? Think of the language. If you develop a software which can work, take commands, speech commands in all Indian languages, of course, your market will be much more than had it been only working in English. And of course, legal sense as well, because now we have got laws in place which which provides rights to people with physical disabilities. Now, when we talk about accessibility, we have to pay our attention to two aspects. One is content design, how to design the content. It is not just any sort of design, any flat design that we do for any content will do. So content design is one aspect. The other aspect is the delivery interface. Now, both of these are important and often they're interrelated. We'll show some examples that the interface delivery, the delivery interface, the interface that we have for delivery will also dictate how you should organize the content, how the content should be designed, and vice versa. Depending on what sort of content is there, you have to work on the delivery interface. So as you can see here, here is an interface. We can see that this place is a little raised, and it's fine that we have kept some place here by which a person who can walk can get in, and those in a wheelchair will not be able to navigate this. So for them, we have given a ramp. And this ramp is now an essential component of any public civil design. So this is one interface. Of course, we are not talking of contents here. So here you see that there are two, we have made it, the entrance to this building is universal. Why? Because it is for all. Those who can climb the stairs can use this path, and those who are in wheelchair, I've also provided them a path to come to the same point along this ramp. So this is such a nice design, and it's an ideal building that accommodates everyone. This building is accessible. Normally, if I had taken out this ramp, this building would not have been accessible. So when we are talking of Atmanirbhar Bharat, when we are talking of 75 years of independence, we must vouch, we must pledge that all our buildings will be such universally accessible. We must vouch that all our software should be such universally accessible. Okay? Now, the question is, often people have got a lot of hype about digital. Oh, we have gone digital. This is all digital. But digital does not necessarily mean accessible. It appears that digital means that from anywhere I can access the internet, I can get the information, I can book my air tickets or train tickets from anywhere in India. But that doesn't make it, that only doesn't make it accessible. For accessibility, we need something more. And digital is not equal to accessible. Digitally, we have to think of whether it is digitally accessible. And in order to, here I am showing some examples of making a thing digitally accessible. For example, I have got a board. on which there are some fonts. If they are enlarged and enhanced, a low vision person will be able to read it. If and what will happen to a sightless person? They must be able to read this also, provided there is a screen reading software. Whether if there is a text to speech, that means this text that is there can be converted to speech and we can listen to that, then it is accessible. But if it is an image PDF, often an image PDF is not accessible by text to speech machines. All right? We should be able to download it and do something. Is it ubiquitous? Can I access it through any sort of media, phone, tab, laptop, or maybe whatnot? So we have to see also whether the thing is digitally accessible. All right? Only then we can say that it is accessible. Merely being digital does not make it accessible. Here you can see certain tools for accessibility. And nowadays we are talking of, digital libraries. National Digital Library Mission is going on, and we are talking of libraries now. Digital libraries, unless we have got proper accessibility support, then that will not have its proper value. So here we first show that what can we do? One thing is screen magnification by zooming the text. Now here also some technology is required, because if I go on zooming the text beyond the limit, it will break, as you know. But there are ways through image processing by which you can do that. We can do it by touch. All right. We should be able to touch the map and understand what is the roadmap. Okay. We should be able to have alternative pointing device. Instead of some people, as I said, that cerebral palsy affected people will not be able to use the mouse to point at a particular point, go to a particular link, click, and go to a next page. That is not possible. The other type of, so we must have alternative pointing device. We'll show all of these in a minute. The other thing is, of course, Braille. Braille, all of you know, is a language of alphabets that was defined by Louis Braille, who himself became blind when he was a student, and he invented the dot pattern representing different alphabets, and that gave rise to the Braille system. Now, those Braille books are written on thick type of papers, often manually. Now we can do it by software. That is one thing on paper. Or, as you can see here, there can be tactile devices where the different dot patterns will just come up on a particular device, and a blind person can put his or her finger on that and get a feel, all right, and read. That's how they read. Or we can have a handheld device, a scanner, which we can hold on the book, some book or some text, and automatically text-to-speech engine will speak it out. So there are different ways, different tools that people are working on for accessibility, for making people Atmanirbhar, right? Now, so therefore, access in the digital world means that there should be physical access plus interaction with resources and services. All right, we must be able to access them physically and interact with resources and services. Now let's pay a little attention to this line where it is saying serial search in a non-serial environment. You see, when a particular, you look at a particular page on a book, you look at a particular page on the screen, it is a two-dimensional thing. There may be some pictures here and there, some text here and there, and because of our eye, we can parallelly search them. We can go to any particular corner and read that out. We can do that, right? Now, think of the scenario if you are blind. In that case, this sort of presentation of the content will not serve the purpose. Suppose I have got a chatbot or a robot which will read it out for you. Now it will read it out from left to right, right? Left to right, it will go on reading, and you will listen to them sequentially. So in your mind, you are listening to the whole thing in sequentially, and that is called a serial search. How the thing is done, serial. All right, one after another, sequentially we're listening. This is in a non-serial environment. Although the environment is non-serial, parallel, we can do that, but we may have to convert it in a serial form to enable a particular category or some particular categories of users to use it. Think of the use of frames, tables, drop boxes, search boxes that we so frequently use while designing our web page. We like to give frames, we like to give tables, drop boxes, and search boxes. But seldom do you think how this will translate to the access of a blind person for that matter. So, in order to do that, we have to make, and we are always very much keen to make things smart. We use JavaScript, and that adds increased interaction and control. We like to have very smart web page. However, such JavaScripts and impregnation of such special tools and classes will make the whole thing inaccessible. Navigation, inability or difficulty in navigating using a keyboard or assistive technology. A person who is not seeing it, who doesn't have access to the mouse, how can he go left to right? Only with the cursor key of the keyboard. And with respect to the different key presses, there should be interactions from the system. We have to design the proper interaction, right? So that often becomes difficult with JavaScript embedded things. There are often hidden contents. The contents are not very open. We have to go to them. Now, when somebody is accessing speech synthesizer, text to speech, it is not getting access to the hidden contents. It is just looking at the surface, the text, and reading it out. Similarly, there are lack of user control and there are confusions which will show. Similarly, for the video lectures, nowadays the NPTEL lectures and Coursera lectures have become so popular. So, for the hard of hearing, nowadays we are using closed captioning in lecture capture. That means whenever a lecture is being given, the speech, the lecture is being captured and closed captioning is introduced over there. The side effects are that it enables better comprehension, both for us. Often we see a very Americanized film where we cannot follow the accents. We take help of the subtitles, right? So for the hearing, not only for the hearing impaired, for us also, sometimes it helps us to understand better. And of course, it becomes a necessity for the hearing impaired. And to view in noisy environment, suppose you are looking at it in a noisy environment, and if there be closed captioning, you'll be able to get through the contents while the voice gets submerged in the noise. The video search and indexing. So YouTube video viewing actually increased by around 7 to 8% after it was supported by such closed captioning. Multilingual translation of captions, which we are also seeing today, all these things are picking up and roping in more and more people in using this sort of accessible technology. Now, there was a suit against MIT and Harvard that was filed because their lectures, where Coursera and others were not accessible. So that is a real issue. And now all these things are picked up and we are seeing a better day now. Now in India, also we'll have to look at that. Panopto is an example tool which automatically allows the closed captioning. It captures the lecture and transcribes it in the form of captions. It resulted in 33% increase in caption registration in 1 year. So as I was saying, that it is not only a moral sense, but it will also make business sense. It is seen from this increase in the number of people who will be therefore using it. All right, so people are writing tools for that. These are research and startup ideas. Accept submission with marked segments, files, and directories. What it does, Panopto, you can mark in a text a particular part in a text and submit it. Then, or a particular, sorry, I'm sorry, a particular segment of the lecture, you can mark a voice and submit it. It will transcribe and make it closed caption. So these are the support that are coming from such tools. Users captioning service such as 3Play Media. All right, 3Play Media also gives that service and Panopto uses them. Makes the captions accessible through integration with LMS. All right, the learning management systems. Along with that, we can do it. And therefore, my students segment becomes inclusive. I become inclusive. I can have my hearing impaired students also here. Now, here you can see an example of such closed caption where some use PC. So we can have different tools. Some what have you, that's great, but you also use two things like electronic, etc. That's being, whatever is being told by this gentleman is being transliterated into the caption here. All right, and this is the overall interface of that Panopto type of tool where you can select, show the closed captioning, search closed captions, you can search among them and do many more things. Now comes the image accessibility for the sightless. For example, there is a biology class or something or paramedic class where a particular image like this is being shown. All right, all of us can see and understand that this is a surgery that's being shown and a surgeon is actually cutting through the stomach or some part of the body. All right, using a knife, and there are other assistants with other tools ready to help him, help the doctor, him or her, whatever it is. Now, and the background color of the dress of the people are blue. Now, this is completely missed by the sightless user. So, in order to make it accessible to them, I cannot show them without God's grace that I cannot give them back the sight, but I can certainly give them information. And that is using alt tags. So, alt tags, I can always say this is a image file called surgery.gif. And while that is being shown, the alt tag to that, that means a blind user can press a key for the alt tag and the alt will read out incision shown, only hands of doctors visible. So you can understand that some incision is being shown here and only hands of doctors visible. You could have added more that one doctor is carrying out the incision or whatever detail you want to put. All right. So this alt tag use of now we are starting to talk about a part where we must note what are the things we must do in order to develop an accessible website, for example. All right. So first thing is we must have, as we are showing here, we must allow for closed captions. We must allow for alt tags. Now comes this thing. See here. What is the difference between these? This page consists of 5 images, no alt tags. All right. Main image contains text. This is the image, main image, and that is containing the text. Classic wooden wheelbarrow, handmade, special offer, etc. All right. Now here is an alternative, alt tags for the logo. For each of them, I have kept an alt tag here. You can see that. I don't know whether it's visible or not. The picture of this, the source code of this site is this. My site logo. This is this thing. Go to home page. This one. Our products. Then contact details. This. Next, wooden wheelbarrow. Pins. Sorry. Pins carcass with spoked wheels. You see, that's an alt tag. Pins carcass with spoked wheel and metal. Classic wooden wheelbarrow. That is written here. Special offer, so and so. So now this, when seen by the web reader having some screen reading facility, will be able to read out this picture. Will be able to read out this picture, and will also have the alt tags describing this picture. But in this case, nothing will happen. A screen reader will say there is a wheelbarrow picture, period. But here we can talk about much more detail. So this is the difference between this accessible while this is not. Okay. Next, I come to use of colors. Important for people with color blindness as well as for those with visual impairment, means low vision. For any picture or text material, colors should not be used as distinguishing features. Say, for example, I say that the pros are written in green and the cons are written in red. Now, this doesn't carry any sense to a person who is colorblind, who will not be able to distinguish between red and green. Therefore, that sort of distinguishing feature should not be colorified. If colors are essential, there should be alternate supplementary text descriptions also, that this part is talking about the negative features, this part is talking about the positive features, so on and so forth. And also, whether we can also see when we design a web page, there are simulators called the CVD simulator, where you can check that web page as to whether it is suitable for normal color vision or red blind or green blind, blue blind, red weak, different types of color blindness. For whom does it work well? And anytime we use colors in any web page design, we must try to use some simulator like the CVD simulator to see that our website is color friendly, color blindness friendly. All right. Now comes the stuff. Pardon?
The skin white.
Request the participants to please mute themselves.
Okay, there is a, so here you see, I'm showing you again two pictures. Structures and headings, before and after, are very important. Here you can,
I would request the organizers to please mute the participants.
So you can see that we can, I'm sorry, this is not coming very clear. Sorry. I'll explain in the next one, you see. The structure of a document, we typically have heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. And we have only one per page, same as title, all section titles, all subsection titles. Now we can, either we can have in this form or we can have in this form. All right. So that this is all kept in mind, keeping in view the features of a screen reader. You remember I said that the content has to be designed keeping in mind what is the delivery interface. If the delivery interface is speech, it must be done in such a way that it is speech enabled. For example, a table, think of a table that looks like this. The School of Computing and School of Physics, amount allocated, so and so, so and so, etc. Now, if this is presented in a web page like this, then it will be read by the screen reader left to right. So what will the screen reader read? School amount allocated, amount spent, School of Computing, rupees so and so, rupees so and so, School of Physics, rupees so and so, rupees so and so. So the interlink between the amount as amount allocated for School of Computing is lost. I'm not being able to understand that. On the other hand, if it could be the sample code is here, like you see, this is a sample code of this table where I'm having the header school, amount allocated, amount spent. So the screen reader will read that. Then it will come School of Computing, so and so, so and so, and so much amount and so much amount. Here, School of Physics, so much amount and so much amount. So that is one way of presenting it. Now, here, the same thing, you see, if I had used the ID part and I use the header for every cell, then it will, the same table would have looked like this. You would hear like this. This table lists the amount of money allocated and spent by schools in the year 2010. School of Computing, amount allocated this much, amount spent this much. School of Physics, amount allocated so much, amount spent so much. Let's go back to the table. You see, now I'm reading like this, School of Computing, here, amount allocated so much, amount spent so much. So now, for a person, if you close your eyes, you will also be able to visualize that table. You'll be able to understand how the thing is being presented. So the source code, the code should be written in such a way that this ID is utilized. All right. Now comes the other thing, that's the accessible media players for videos and all those. Now I'm talking of mouse disabled people. The people, as I said, that cerebral palsy, those who do not have access to the good enough motor control, they will not be able to use the mouse. For them, we have to provide keyboard accessibility. For example, in media players, what do? We get the playlist, go to a particular song, click there, and it runs, right? But here, we have to do it by keyboard, and that sort of delivery interface must be given. And the links and the controls should be accessible through a tab key, because the cerebral palsy child will, I'll show you soon, that will not be able to navigate among the entire spread of the keyboard. One particular key should be given to help him. So might be through the tab key. The interface of a media player should be designed in such a way that just by tab key they can have access to it. All right? Without any focus feedback. And there should be shortcut keys for all control. Tab to volume icon must specify control, that whether it's increasing or decreasing, all those sort of things. Audio books on the web. We can have audio books on the web, we have. But we are now trying to have Braille books on the web also, and DAISY books also. DAISY books, DAISY Consortium actually defined a protocol by which books can be made speech enabled, not only speech enabled, but can be accessible. Here is a DAISY hardware through which you can read any book. I can go back and forth and understand it. All right. E-text, DAISY versus other things. E-text, normal e-text, we have electronic text, but DAISY has a structure of headings and pages. compared to MP3, where we listen to MP3 voices, Daisy is navigable, bookmarkable. Players remember where you left off. So you go on reading, and at a particular point you go out, go to the toilet, come back and start reading. It remembers from where you were, how much it played, and where you stopped. If you want to go back to an earlier section, it allows you to go to that section. Moreover, it is equipped with a text-to-speech system by which you can read out the book, and it can also have bookmarks and also can handle images. What's inside a Daisy? There's a navigation, that Daisy hardware that I was showing you, this one. What is inside there? There is a navigation control center, and we have got on the text side XHTML, and on the audio side we have got MP3. All these are together mapped to an SMIL, synchronized interface, and from here both sides are synchronized, and that's how a Daisy book can be read out. This is what is played. That's taken from both of these, and this is a tagged system which will establish a corresponding between the text and the audio. Okay. Now I'm coming to the cerebral palsy component of the talk. Here, not much more left. Here you can see a child. I was talking of spastic child. Here you can see a child who is sitting on a wheelchair and pointing. They cannot speak. So pointing at a banana, for example, and making a particular sort of sound. And the caregiver or the father or the teacher, whoever this gentleman is, can understand this child. But this child cannot communicate with the peers because they will not understand her. So we were thinking of making some interfaces for them. So what is the problem with these people? They are mouse disabled. In a computer system, the mouse is not in their reach. And so the keyboard is also not in their reach because they cannot move their fingers and go to the proper key. All right. Now, here is an example of a web browser that we have designed. And you can see that now this particular web page has been provided with a different interface by which they can now access. Think of this web page, which is not very clear, but you can see that there are several links here, hyperlinks. And for you and me, we can go over here and click it. But how can that child who is mouse and keyboard disabled access those hyperlinks? For that, what has been done is that this page has been analyzed first, and corresponding to every hyperlink, a number has been generated. Corresponding to every hyperlink, an integer has been generated. And not only that, a pop-up screen has come up over here where a child, and this is an auto scan pop-up keyboard, and where the highlighter is scanning across the different keys. Whichever key the child wants to select, wants to press, he will press one tab key or some other switch, which I'll show you just now. Using that sort of interface, he can select a particular number. For example, here it is shown 5. Similarly, they can type 25 or whatever, and the corresponding link will open. Not only that, you can see that this part will also be scannable, and whatever commands the child wants to give can be given through these selection of these icons here, which are also themselves scannable. Let's see here how to access. I was just thumping here. That means we have got some special switches, access switches like this, or foot operated, leap operated, or hand operated switches, using which the child do not have motor action, no refined motor action, but can thump on any particular point. All right. So using such a keyboard, such a switch, he can select that, he can thump on this switch as soon as the desired number is highlighted. Okay, and in that way he can make the selections. So you see the complete interface. The system was there, the web page is there, Wikipedia is there, everything is there, but we had to give a new type of accessibility interface enabling this sort of users to access it. For example, here you can see the overview of the browser. The browser is actually showing that Wikipedia on light with going to the next link, previous link, and all sorts of things. Keyword search, entertainment, different things which I used to do by clicking certain things here can be done by this auto scanning. Through this scanning mode, I can now do this. Here is a better picture of what I was showing, that you can see there's groundnut or say peanut. Wikipedia, this link is marked 25. The child has selected 2 and then 5 using that sort of switch. And then when he presses this return, then this link will open up. All right. So that is how this new interface enables you. Here you can see we have made more friendly scenario where we know typically what are the things he wants to query about, and he can select those icons here, and this will come much faster. All right. So different types of interpret. This is an integrated query generation engine using which we are giving meaningful queries from a set of icons. Now, the web accessibility core group has given some recommendations. All right. While we design a web, um, we'll have to keep in mind this word, POUR, P-O-U-R. Developing with accessibility in mind, POUR, what does it say? It must be perceivable. It must be operable. The person should be able to feel it, what is being shown. It must be operable, it must be understandable, and it must be robust. These are the 4 things that WCAG asks us to do. And the core principle, first one is perceivable. What do I mean by that? That non-text elements must have a text alternative. For example, the alt tag, alt text thing, where the blind person could not see the image, there must be some description so that it is perceivable. Provide alternatives for time-based media. If something moves in time, all right, then a slow user may lose it. So you have to provide some alternatives that he can go back or something. Create content that can be represented in different ways without losing the structure or information. You should be able to modulate it, change it in different ways. Give sufficient contrast in text, audio, and video. You must give sufficient contrast. The next one is operable. Make all functionality available from a keyboard or alternate access mechanism. Do not depend on mouse. Alternate access mechanism can be speech, can be the special switch that I have shown, or maybe eye blinks, but not something that requires a lot of motor resolution. All right. Provide sufficient time to read and use content. It must not be going in a flash. Do not design in ways that cause seizures. All right. Sometimes it happens, when we feel fascinated to animate our presentation. So it comes and makes a volte-face and it just moves like that. Now, for some people who are slow learners, such fast change of the screen can often cause seizures to them, and they will not be able to cope up with this thing. So you must make it properly operable. Provide clear and consistent navigation and context. The third one is understandable. Set the language of your website. Make text readable and understandable. Avoid unusual words. Spell out abbreviations, acronyms. Often we write text. This is another area of research, how readable your text is. Avoid unusual words. Make your website appear and operate predictably. I was using a bank website, Axis Bank's, it changes, the user interface changes every week. And it is really disturbing to find my login moved at the left bottom corner, and sometimes it goes at the right up corner. Well, this is very disturbing even for us, and forget about the aged people and those who are mentally disabled. I mean, it's a horrible design of website. Some designers learn certain things and try to practice and show their knowledge and skill, but that is very harmful for the users. That must be kept in mind. Robust is another thing. Maximize compatibility with current and future user agents. You must, whatever the user agents can be, later, in a later point of time, you must keep that in mind and keep compatibility. Avoid custom marker, not that are not markup that are not universally supported. You must go for universal design. Closing all open tags, support for assistive technologies, different types of assistive technologies, maybe special devices, special switches. You must keep them in view, and byproduct will be increased in extendability and wider use space. So with these, I conclude my talk. Now, if there are some questions, I can take it up.
Thank you so much, sir, for a really very informative session. Now, I would request the participants, if they have any questions, we can have a discussion with sir. Maybe let us know. You can raise up your hands, and then we will provide you with the mic and the camera access, and then you can have a elaborative discussion.
I think it's Sunday. Oh, I think Rohit Gupta has got a question. Yes, please, Rohit.
Okay, very good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So, sir, thank you. First of all, thank you for such a elaborated talk and giving us the insight of your research work and teaching us the real meaning of the digital mean, so that like it should be accessible to all of us. Okay, so sir, my question is like you discuss about the WCAG guidelines. So I just want to know, these guidelines are like government made guidelines, or it is some society who
No, it's a
suggest?
society. It is a society. It is a W3 consortium, Worldwide Web Consortium, and they made a, not our government, but our government has said that the web pages should be WCAG compliant. These protocols or these, what should I say, standards have been prepared by WCAG, which is a non-government independent body. And
Okay, so the developer is not like bound to follow these guidelines.
But as I said, that they have formed it, but government says that for all government web pages, it must be compliant.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So
otherwise, your private one, if you don't do it, that's up to you. Unless your organization also imposes that the website must be accessible according to WCAG standard, you may escape. But otherwise, it's pertinent and prudent that everybody should say that, so that we can really respect accessibility.
okay. So, sir, one thing more, like for following these guidelines, or maybe add on, put some add-ons so that the website will be accessible for all type of people. Should we
Right.
spend some extra like money or some like that? We can say financial aspect, or we just have to follow the instructions.
No,
like
it's not
guidelines?
necessarily. Suppose if you are a web design company, it is better that you procure a CVD type of simulator. Some of them are freeware, you can download it, or you have to buy something so that you can see whether it's a colorblind friendly or not. The other things are not very cost in there. They do not involve any cost. Instead of using JavaScript, you use your some other language and design so that the alt tags and all those things are given. And if that has to be made accessible with other alternate access mechanisms, then you have to provide that interface. That driver should be there in your system. And anybody who brings that user interface, he should be able to download that driver and interface it. Just as we bring in a printer, whenever you give an operating system, you give a bunch of drivers, right? So I take a printer and I download that. So in that way, you'll have to provide some accessibility drivers.
Okay, so sir, what are the possible reasons why the website developers or the companies are not following these?
Lack of awareness and lack of policing, both. Lack of awareness, and the government has said that, but the government seldom audits that. That's why.
Okay.
It's not possible for the government to do it all the time, and so people take a chance of that, and they have scant respect for the disabled segment, and they really do not bother that a major segment are not being able to access their web page.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Somebody else was raising a hand. Lavanya or somebody. Lavanya, you had something to say?
Lavanya, you have the mic assist. Please go ahead. Lavanya, am I audible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
So maybe you can just ask, sir. You have the mic assist.
Okay. Sir, actually, you are discussing about JavaScript does not support all those features, sir. I am from computer science background only. I have knowledge on web designing. I have learned PHP, all those things. JavaScript does not support all those facilities for the blind people.
No. What is meant by JavaScript? We'll have a number of embedded classes, So whenever you have got those embedded classes, you do not have enough control over them. Once you make the website using JavaScript, then that becomes very smart using those classes. But from an outside accessible mechanism, when you want to manipulate with them, that is not directly accessible at the surface on the web page. Okay, there are several critics of using JavaScript for accessible web pages by WCAG. You can read it in the internet. There are several critics.
Then, what is the alternate for JavaScript, sir, from your side? What language you?
JavaScript, I think you can write in XHTML type of thing.
Oh.
If you write, that is more. The simpler you are, the more flexibility you have on that.
Okay, sir. Actually, XHTML, why people are going for JavaScript is to be more dynamic.
Yeah, I know, and it is very sophisticated, looks very smart, but somehow we lose that accessibility points. That's why it's a balance.
So we need to look for an alternate for that.
Yes.
Is there anything available?
I think now I'm not often being able to tell you, but there are some languages which have also come up with some modifications of JavaScript. We can find that out and communicate it.
Sure. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Taranjit, if there is no other question, I have another meeting to attend at 6:10. So
I guess there are no other questions. So maybe if they are there, we can just send them offline to you. Maybe.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. Maybe participants, if you have any further questions, you may reach sir, or you can mail us your queries. Then we can post up to sir. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. Indeed, it is a value addition for all of us, those who are working in this area and those who are newer to this area as well. So we really look for opportunities in future where we can have some offline seminar and we can have a more elaborative discussion and have your guidance, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, participants, for joining us for this evening session. So we would be meeting you people tomorrow at 5 o'clock, and we would be having a session by Professor Bharat Biswal, and it would be really worth attending the same. So please try to connect well before time. and let's catch up tomorrow. Till then, please take care and have a happy weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.